Introduction of this chapter. In this chapter, we shall study about observations, various kinds of data and its types, range of the data, classification of data, graphical representation of data, and various measures of central tendencies like mean, median, and mode. Observations. It is the fact or the figures which are obtained either in the form of numerical or else it may be representing some type of property like gender or name of the profession or various kinds of names of the persons, which is collected for the study of a particular problem under consideration, then that is considered to be observation. Data is the collection of the observations which are collected for a certain type of purpose, and that purpose might be any kind of, for a company point of view, for our personal point of view, or else for the national point of view. Then whatever that information, that collection of data, that collection of observation, that is considered to be data. We classify data into basically two categories, that is quantitative data and qualitative data. Quantitative data. The observations of this data will be numerical, so that will represent certain kinds of numbers. For example, height of the person, weight of the person, or age, number of children in a family, or number of flowers. Now, whatever the answers that we might be getting for this kind of data, that will be all certain types of numbers, and that is why it is considered to be a quantitative data. Qualitative data. Here the observations would be obviously non-numerical. For example, the names or else the surnames, that won't give you the numbers, but that is what is going to give you some kind of property. Results of tossing a coin will give you either head or a tail. That means not a number. Gender of the applicants, that may male or female, or nowadays the otherwise also. That also is non-numerical data. And marital status, that is married or unmarried, doesn't give you the number. That is once again a qualitative data. Further, we classify data as primary data. That is, when the information is collected by the investigator with a definite objective. That means the data is collected by the person himself or herself without depending on anybody else. Then that type of data is referred as primary data. Whereas the second type of data, that we call it as secondary data. When the information is collected by someone else for some other study, but that information is used by the investigator. That means the investigator himself did not find out that information, but he derived that information from some reliable source, then that type of data is considered to be secondary data. Exercise 16.1, for the given statements, we are supposed to identify whether the given data is the primary data or secondary data. The number of students in a class. Now you know that you can calculate that how many students are there in a class without depending on any other survey, and therefore this will be considered as a primary data. Election results obtained from a print media or from television news channels. That means we depend on the data which is collected by the print media, that is the newspapers, or else we depend on the data collected by the various television channels. So obviously this type of data is considered to be secondary data. Literacy rate figures obtained from an educational survey. That means once again we depend on the survey which is being carried out by someone else, that is educational survey is carried out, and from that we identify the literacy rate, then that is considered to be once again secondary data. Number of trees in the school campus. Now you can count those number of trees in the given school campus very easily, and therefore that data would be considered as primary data. Amount of telephone bills of our home for one last year. That means for last 1 year, whatever the total amount that you spent on the telephone bill. So obviously we can calculate that by calculating all the telephone bills. So this is considered to be primary data. Profit or loss of any company, and that is obtained from its annual report. So the annual report is prepared by the company, and we are referring the annual report prepared by someone else. So obviously that data will be secondary data. Temperature of the city for the last month. Now this can be considered as both, that is primary data also and secondary data also. How? Let us see. If I have an atmospheric thermometer with me, then I can find out the temperature of my city for the last month on my own. In that case, it becomes the primary data. But if I refer the temperatures which are being printed in the given newspaper, or else the temperatures which are being published on the television, and then prepare that data, then that would be considered as a secondary data because I depended on the survey carried out by someone else. So over here, it can be primary data also and it can be secondary data also.